What if I told you that in 1986, a 20-year-old Mike Tyson looked the greatest boxer of all time straight in the eye and called him washed up, old and finished? And what if I told you that Muhammad Ali's response was so profound, so unexpectedly wise, that it made the most feared man in boxing break down and apologize with tears in his eyes? This wasn't about ego or pride. This was about a legend teaching a young warrior what true greatness really means. February 14th, 1986. Gleason's Gym in Brooklyn, New York. Mike Tyson, just 19 years old, was 18 months away from becoming the youngest heavyweight champion in history. He was undefeated, unstoppable, and absolutely convinced that he was destined to surpass every fighter who had come before him. "I'm going to destroy everyone," Tyson would tell reporters. "All the old champions, all the legends, they're nothing compared to what's coming. I'm going to be the greatest fighter who ever lived." Those words would reach Muhammad Ali, now 44 years old and 3 years into retirement. Ali had been dealing with the early stages of Parkinson's disease. His hands trembled slightly. His speech was beginning to slow. The man who had once floated like a butterfly was learning to live with a body that no longer obeyed his commands. But his mind, his heart, those were as sharp as ever. On that February afternoon, Cus D'Amato, Tyson's legendary trainer, had arranged for a private meeting. Muhammad Ali was coming to meet the young fighter everyone was calling the future of heavyweight boxing. "Listen to me, Mike," D'Amato said to Tyson as they waited. "This man coming to see you today is Muhammad Ali. You show him respect." But Mike Tyson wasn't in the mood for showing respect to anyone, especially not to an old, finished fighter who represented the past. Tyson was the future. When Ali walked through the doors of Gleason's Gym, the entire place went silent. Even in his declining physical state, Muhammad Ali still commanded a presence that could stop conversations and turn heads. "Where's the young lion everyone's talking about?" Ali asked. Tyson was hitting the heavy bag when he saw Ali approach. Instead of stopping, instead of showing deference, Tyson hit the bag harder. Bang, bang, bang. Each punch was a statement. "You Mike Tyson?" Ali asked. Tyson stopped and turned to face him. For a moment, they just stared at each other. "The old king and the young prince. Yeah, I'm Mike Tyson," he said, not bothering to remove his gloves. "And you're Muhammad Ali, the guy everyone says I'm supposed to worship." A murmur went through the gym. This kid was showing blatant disrespect to Muhammad Ali, but Ali just smiled. That same smile that had charmed the world for 2 decades. "Worship? No, young man. I never asked anyone to worship me, just to respect the game and the men who came before you." Tyson scoffed. "Respect? For what? For losing to Larry Holmes? You're washed up, old man. Your time is over. This is my time now." The gym went dead silent. Muhammad Ali had just been insulted to his face by a 20-year-old kid. "You think I'm washed up?" Ali asked, his voice calm. "I know you're washed up," Tyson shot back. "You're slow, you're old, and you can barely talk without shaking. I'd knock you out in 1 round if you had the guts to get in the ring with me." The disrespect was staggering. But what happened next shocked everyone in that gym. Muhammad Ali started laughing. Not a bitter laugh, but a genuine, warm laugh that seemed to come from deep in his soul. "You know what, Mike?" Ali said, walking closer. "You remind me of someone I used to know." "Yeah, who's that?" "Me," Ali said simply. 25 years ago, I was standing in a gym just like this one, talking to an old champion just like you're talking to me. His name was Archie Moore." Tyson's expression changed slightly. He wasn't expecting a story. "And you know what I told Archie Moore?" Ali continued. "I told him he was finished. I told him his time was over. I told him I was going to be the greatest fighter who ever lived." Ali paused, letting that sink in. Archie Moore looked at me. "And you know what he said?" He said, "Young man, you've got speed and power, but you don't have wisdom yet. And wisdom is what separates the great fighters from the fighters who flame out and disappear. Ali walked closer to Tyson, close enough that the young fighter could see the slight tremor in his hands. I didn't listen to Archie Moore that day. I thought wisdom was something old fighters talked about when they couldn't fight anymore. But you know what I learned, Mike? Speed fades, power fades, but wisdom grows stronger every day if you let it. Tyson was listening now, his defensive posture beginning to soften. You called me washed up, Ali continued. And you know what? You're probably right. I couldn't beat you in a ring today. But let me ask you something, son. What happens when you can't fight anymore? What are you talking about? Tyson asked. I'm never going to stop fighting. Every fighter stops fighting eventually, Ali said gently. And when that day comes, Mike, what's left? If all you are is your fists, what happens when the power is gone? For the first time since Ali had walked into the gym, Mike Tyson didn't have an immediate answer. I spent my whole career proving I was the greatest fighter, Ali continued. But you know what made me great? It wasn't just my hands. It wasn't just my speed. Ali tapped his chest, right over his heart. What made me great was understanding that being a champion meant more than winning fights. It meant standing up for what I believed in, even when it cost me everything. It meant using my platform to speak for people who couldn't speak for themselves. Ali's voice was getting stronger now, more passionate. You want to know what greatness really is, Mike? Greatness is what you do when nobody's watching. Greatness is how you treat people who can't do anything for you. Greatness is whether you use your gifts to lift people up or just to tear people down. The young fighter was staring at Ali now, really seeing him for the first time. You called me washed up. And maybe I am. But I'm still here, son. I'm still standing. I'm still fighting battles. Just different battles. I'm fighting this disease that's trying to take my voice. I'm fighting to leave something behind that matters more than just a win-loss record. Ali moved closer to Tyson, close enough to put his trembling hand on the young fighter's shoulder. Mike, you've got more raw power than I ever had. You might hit harder than anyone who ever lived. But power without purpose is just destruction. Speed without wisdom is just flash. And strength without compassion is just brutality. The entire gym was listening now. Everyone was transfixed by what was happening between these two men. You want to be the greatest? Ali asked. Then be great at everything. Not just fighting. Be great at loving people. Be great at helping people. Be great at understanding that your real opponent isn't the man in the other corner. Your real opponent is the voice in your head that tells you that being feared is more important than being respected. Mike Tyson's eyes were beginning to glisten. Something in Ali's words was reaching him. I don't know how to be anything but a fighter, Tyson said quietly. That's where you're wrong, son, Ali said. You're a human being first. The fighting is just what you do. It's not who you are, and when the fighting stops, who you are is all that's left. Ali's hand was still on Tyson's shoulder and the young fighter could feel the slight tremor. You know what I see when I look at you, Mike? I see a young man who's angry at the world. I see someone who thinks that being the scariest person in the room makes him the strongest person in the room. Tyson looked down at his gloves, then back up at Ali. But you know what else I see? I see potential for something much greater. I see someone who could inspire people instead of just intimidating them. I see someone who could use his platform to lift up kids who came from the same streets he came from. The choice is yours, Mike, Ali said. You can spend your career proving that you're the baddest man on the planet, or you can spend it proving that you're something even better. A man who used his gifts to make the world a little bit better. For a long moment, Mike Tyson just stood there, processing everything he'd heard. Then, slowly, he began to remove his gloves. Mr. Ali, he said, his voice breaking slightly. I'm sorry. I was disrespectful. I was wrong. Muhammad Ali smiled and pulled the young fighter into an embrace. Son, you don't need to apologize for being young and hungry. You just need to remember that hunger without wisdom can eat you alive. The two men stood there in the middle of Gleason's gym, connected by something deeper than boxing, something more profound than sport. "Can I ask you something?" Tyson said when they separated. "Anything, young man. How do I become great? Not just a great fighter. Great like you." Ali looked at him with eyes that held decades of experience, triumph, loss, and hard-earned wisdom. "You start by understanding that greatness isn't about what you take from the world, Mike. It's about what you give back. The people who cheer for you today might forget your name tomorrow, but the people whose lives you touch, they'll remember you forever." The conversation continued for another hour. Ali told Tyson about his early career, about the mistakes he'd made, about the lessons he'd learned the hard way, and Mike Tyson listened. Really listened. For the first time in years, the young fighter wasn't thinking about his next knockout. He was thinking about legacy, about purpose, about what it meant to be more than just a destroyer. When Ali finally left the gym that day, Mike Tyson was a different person, not completely transformed, but changed enough that everyone around him could see it. "What did he say to you?" D'Amato asked later. "He taught me that being the scariest man in the world doesn't make you the greatest man in the world," Tyson replied. The impact of that conversation would echo through the rest of Mike Tyson's career. Years later, when Tyson faced his own demons, his own struggles with anger and self-destruction, he would remember that day in Gleason's gym. He would remember Muhammad Ali's trembling hand on his shoulder and the words that changed his life. "Your real opponent isn't the man in the other corner. Your real opponent is the voice in your head." In 2016, when Muhammad Ali died, Mike Tyson was one of the first people to speak publicly about his loss. "Muhammad Ali saved my life," Tyson said. "Not as a fighter, but as a man. He showed me that being great means using your greatness to lift other people up. He showed me that the strongest thing you can do is admit when you're wrong and try to be better." Today, when young fighters ask Mike Tyson about the secret to greatness, he tells them the same thing Muhammad Ali told him in that Brooklyn gym. Greatness isn't about what you take from the world. It's about what you give back. The day that started with a young fighter calling a legend washed up ended with that same young fighter learning what it really means to be great. Not great at fighting, great at being human. Muhammad Ali couldn't stop time. He couldn't stop his body from betraying him, but he could still teach. He could still inspire. He could still turn a moment of disrespect into a lesson in greatness. That's what legends do. They don't just create legacies, they pass them on,